The Minotaur was scary, so I wanted to try to go for something a little easier. Fairies are small, whimsical, they have a lot of good movies, so I figured that they fit the bill. So if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, no, I did not think that interviewing fairies would go this poorly! Up your stinker bell.
You guys ever wonder what it would be like to date somebody and get beaten up by somebody who's 10 times smaller than you? I really hope nobody said yes to that. To the newcomers who stumbled in without knowing what they're getting into, welcome to the Ude. This is a club for the cultured, gentle sirs and madams, where we talk about women that we can't have. Or in this case, shouldn't have, because fairies are mean. Let's be honest, at one point or another, the train of thought comes by us as to whether or not it's possible to date a noodle stop. Yes, I'm aware that my charger doesn't fit the USB port, but like, the idea of having a tiny wife. If I follow all the rules and remain wholesome about it, and treat her delicately, could I make it work? I wouldn't mind having my own Winx Club harem. I wouldn't mind going out with Romulus. I wouldn't mind having my own... No, not that. But that was before my research when I found out that fairies are a little darker than they are made out to be. As far as fiction is concerned, the fairy is tiny. The fairy is sweet. The fairy's our friend. We like fairies. In reality, fairy is actually more or less a blanket term to describe anything that wasn't human, and that can stretch from anything to leprechauns, to goblins, to, yes, tiny pixies and feyfolk, but also some of the more violent bloodsuckers and human killers. Hence, you would not want to date it, which... God, it feels vindicating to actually have one of these videos where I say you don't want to date it. I was right all along! And if you want to discover why I'm right, then stick around, because I'm going to go over the history in a sec. The way that I usually do these videos is that I start by giving you a history lesson of the monster girl in question, in this case, the fairy folk. Because believe it or not, cartoons and anime are the arbiters of deceit, and the real thing is not as nice as they would let you to believe, but I am aware that will not stop those of stronger will, so after the history lesson, I'm going to give you some tips on what you could do to survive being with a fairy, which, I remind you, they are more of a danger to you than you are to them. After the history lesson and the safety course, we're then going to interview one of their kind about hypotheticals as what would happen if fairies existed in our world, or at least came out of hiding, I guess. It's something I'm hoping to do a little more often on this channel because it's fun to talk to people and also just a job where you get to talk to 2D women. I am living the life! Then we end the video with my personal thoughts as to whether or not I would date the fairy despite everything I now know. But before we begin the information portion, I like to begin these things by saying that I am not a solid researcher and there is some information that I might have gotten wrong. Because the fact of the matter is, just about every civilization that civiled had fairies as their lore at one point. For argument's sake, I'm going to try to focus mostly on the European fairies. Maybe one day I can cover fairies that were in the Far East or in the Americas, but we're focusing on Celtic because it's easier and because that's the nature of the fairy that I interviewed. But at the very least, while I might not be a solid researcher, I am passionate about my craft. You can always trust somebody who's passionate about their work to do their best work. So without further ado, let's get into why dating a fairy is a bad idea. As I mentioned before, fairies come from all walks of life, from all civilizations, and it wouldn't surprise me if they came from all 7 continents. Longtime fans of the channel will know that there are at least 2 origin stories for monster girls, that being the fanfic theory and the realistic theory, which is the one that's rooted in reality and explains why the creature was created in the first place. Because there are so many fanfic origins for fairies, including one that I've already covered on this channel in the form of leprechauns, I'm just going to give you the realistic one. The realistic theory as to why all of these civilizations had fairies as a part of their lore at some point is because fairies were mostly used to describe the odd goings-on in nature that people couldn't describe. Why people were on a never-ending streak of bad luck, why trinkets would seem to disappear out of nowhere, why people would disappear into the woods and never come back out. Fairies were just a way to explain all of that in a macabre, bad luck sort of way. So as you can imagine, people wanted to stay away from fairies because they were seemingly more harm than good. Although, it would be a bit of a injustice to say that everybody thought that way. There are some legends where fairies provide good luck. They could get you to talk to animals, they could expand your lifespan, they could give you art and inspiration. But because fairies are synonymous with the unknown and the unexplainable, The general consensus was that you didn't want to mess with them. Yes, they can give you a gold trinket in exchange for some honey and milk, but at the same time, they could come back and they can strike your entire village with a case of tuberculosis, so probably not a coin you want to flip. I found that Ireland in particular was very careful about not wanting to flip this coin, opting to stay out of building in places where it's said that fairy folk were supposed to hang out, and even going as far as to not describe fairies as fairies, but to instead call them by the little people, because saying fairies would have been a blasphemous term that was for sure going to get you sick. Ireland's approach to fairies will come back later on in history in a funny way, I promise. But universally, what are these fairies and what do they do? Well, as I have come to find, fairies is, as I mentioned before, a blanket term to describe beings that just weren't human. Beings that interfered with the world of man by causing small inconveniences, or large inconveniences, depending on how badly you tick them off. But universally, they're always described as something that is little and mischievous, and something that nature needs to keep naturing. So despite how annoying they could be, the reason why nobody went out to hunt them was because they were such an integral part of nature that to remove them would be to remove the natural resources that you need to survive. Trees would stop growing, grass would stop greening, and the whole thing just falls apart. So in essence, we have to tolerate their behavior because we don't have any other choice.
Wait, the last roll. Damn you, tiny man!
Just a little side note, as I mentioned before, fairies are a blanket term to describe many magical creatures. In that sense, things like leprechauns, banshees, and even doulahans to a degree can be considered fairies, but for this case, we're mostly going to be talking about the pixie variety, the small ones, because that's what I'm after, and I was trying to aim for that, but didn't realize that fairies was a broader term than I could have imagined. You might be curious to wonder why they are such a tiny size. Well, I haven't been able to find a straight answer, but I do have a theory. My theory in regards to that is that because fairies are known to be mischievous pranksters, it is just easier to believe they can get away with what they do if they were at a tinier size. Because if they were larger size, like the size of a person, and they still did things like make people sick and steal trinkets and make things happen in nature, if that were the case, then the question becomes, how come they're not more obvious? Like, how come we don't see them? That seems like it's something that's hard to miss. Whereas tiny fairy doing all of that, it's just a lot easier to believe that something like that would happen. Not to mention, reputation for them being little people probably had something to do with it. So all of this in tandem just probably has something to do with giving fairies a reputation for being tiny. One thing that I forgot to mention about their characteristics is that they are also human-shaped, or at least they most often look like us to a degree. So whether you're talking about a leprechaun or a doulahan or a banshee, they usually look human, or human enough, so you can add that to the list. Universally, they are usually tiny, they look like us, and they are slightly toxic. Just what I look for in a girlfriend. There is also one more characteristic I didn't mention because it might not be true for every fairy across the board, but it is for a majority of them that I found, and that's that fairies do have the power to grant you wishes, but they have to be feasible wishes. So what that means is, for example, say you want a car, right? A fairy can't just manifest a car out of the blue, but what they will do is that they will guide you and put you on a path to get that car, rather than just making one appear outright. So I thought it was kind of cool that fairies can sort of act as a guide that makes you work for your wish rather than giving you the wish outright. It's unique. Of course, a fairy can still give you something if the thing you ask for is feasible and they happen to have it, like gold. If you wish it, a fairy can also do something for you, whether that be performing a dance, or singing you a song, or getting in the mason jar. Get in the jar! That's fairies in regards to their looks and their character. If you were to put them on a timeline, you'd start more or less at the beginning of civilization when people looked at them as bad luck and just the mystical gears that get nature working. What I found is that depending on what part of the globe that you visit at the time, fairies could be either nice or worse. For example, if you go to the Americas, in old native traditions, fairies have been known to be more so guides that can help you on a path to achieve a better version of yourself, whereas if you go to the Far East, say in Japan or Eastern Russia, You have stuff like the, I think they're called the Rasolic, who have been known to call out to lonely men and then drown them in a lake. So yeah, weird thing to think about, that is the farther east you go, the more evil the fairies tend to be, but the far west you go, all the way over to the Americas, the nicer they seem to get. And then right in the middle, you have the European fairies, which covers everything from the UK to France to parts of modern-day Germany. These fairies are sort of a chaotic, neutral blend of beings from all walks of life. The fairies here are put into one of two categories: the Seelie Court, which are the nice fairies, and the Unseelie Court, who are unholy and wicked and malicious. If you have to date a fairy, go for the Seelie Court. So bear this information in mind, because it might save your life. The fairy on the right, trustworthy, nice companion, and a good sense of direction. Fairy on the left, untrustworthy, wicked, unholy. Do not trust. As I mentioned before, fairies were used to explain bad luck and the ongoings-on, usually to explain why disease struck a certain town. But somewhere along the way, by word of mouth, legends began spreading of people who went into the woods and ended up taking fairy wives. But in order to take them, there were many rules of engagement that kind of made the whole thing bullshit, but still something that's desirable to few. If I remember, one of the rules was that if you have a fairy wife, you can't watch her bathe, which, you know, okay, if you want to be a gentleman about it, fine. That's a rule I guess I can live with. But another one of those rules was that if you have a fairy wife, you're not allowed to tell anybody or she will disappear. Which, God, that sucks. So you're telling me that if I get a fairy wife, we can't cosplay as Tinkerbell and Peter Pan and completely sweep up the Halloween couples costume contest? Ugh, that's so unfair! What world do we live in where I can't go to my friends and parade around my pocket wife? As Christianity became the dominant religion in Europe, fairies actually found themselves to be partly Christianized. That's something I found kind of weird, because during this time when a lot of creatures that were seen as pagan were being removed for being pagan, fairies were sort of accepted. My guess was that it's because fairies were seen as such an integral part of the natural world that they still didn't want to piss them off, even if they did follow Christianity. So they were instead brought into the religion. But the way that they were brought in was that they were said to have been fallen angels, or angels that were shut out of heaven. Not to the same degree as Satan, but in this case, fairies were, I think they were too late to go back, so when the gates shut, they weren't allowed to pass through, so they instead decided to stay in the world of humans and work nature, if that makes sense. The point is, where other mythical beings and monsters were sort of being thrown at the wayside, fairies sort of got a pass. You could actually say that the legend of fairies and little people actually got more embellished, as they were featured in fictional works like that of Shakespeare, and in stories that were made by the Brothers Grimm that became dubbed as fairy tales. One of their most popular stories being about a fairy godmother that comes down to a raggedy girl with an evil stepmother and evil stepsisters, gives her a pumpkin carriage, a new ball gown, and some glass slippers, and sends her off to the ball. Hey, it's me from post-production. I did a little research after the fact and needed to correct myself here. The original Cinderella story was made by a man named Charles Perrault. He's the one who coined the fairy godmother and the pumpkin carriage and the glass slippers. The Brothers Grimm actually wouldn't write their version of Cinderella until 100 years later, and their version is dubbed the German version, where it is a lot more violent, involving the stepsisters cutting their heels to try to fit into the slipper and having their eyes plucked out by crows. So, yeah, just wanted to clear that one up. Things really start to pop off in the Victorian period, where London starts to industrialize, which leads to some interesting changes in the realm of fairies. For one, a story starts to spread and is widely accepted that fairies could be the unbaptized children who unfortunately passed away at an early age or were stillborn, which could explain why fairies are so mischievous and very childlike and whimsical in nature. This inadvertently sends some people to go out into the wilderness to find and study fairies, only for them to come back with research material that they picked up on the natural world. One of the articles I read said that a couple of these researchers went to find fairy tools and ended up finding stuff that they thought were used by fairies, but instead were used by ancient folk that lived in the area beforehand. I have definitely covered this before, but the idea of people going into a field of study not because it's botany or not because it's anthropology, but because it's fairy-coded botany or fairy-coded anthropology, it's just... life's about the presentation. If you slap a cute girl onto something, You'll convince people to do anything. We have been doing it since antiquity, and we are still doing it now. That is just, it never gets old. At around the same time, this also causes some separation between the Irish and the English, who, as you can imagine, London and many of those cities start to industrialize, whereas the more rural places in Ireland steer clear from that. Some articles suggesting because it's the Irish that don't want to disturb the faithfolk, whereas the English, they could care less. To take it a step further, people in Ireland would look to their old beliefs on faithfolk among other traditions, and they would use it as a sort of national pride to rally people behind the idea of the independence movement. So all of a sudden, politicians in Ireland would start seeing fairies and would talk about having seen fairies in their youth. Let me reiterate that so we're all clear. There was a time when politicians unapologetically and unironically used fairies to put them in positions of power. Alright, in their defense, there was cultural significance to it. But thinking about it in hindsight, it's just so absurd. And then we get to the modern era, which, as is the case with many a monster girl, the way that they are viewed in TV or in movies or in fiction translates to how society views them. It is my personal opinion that Disney is the final nail in the coffin that got people to think of fairies as pixies. Of course, they are not the only culprit, but they are certainly my culprit. I always thought that fairies meant Tinkerbell. I always thought that fairies meant tiny human-shaped beings with wings. But no, it's a wider world than that. Fairies is a blanket term to describe the inner gears of nature that have kept the thing going for hundreds of thousands of years. In a weird way, fairies have still interacted in the world of man despite not having concrete evidence of their existence through either politics or through pagan beliefs or anything like that, but they've captured the imagination, and they're going to continue doing that. For better or worse. Gather around, brothers. Let me tell you what to do if you encounter a fairy. So fairies are divided by the Seelie and the Unseelie court. We all know this. This means that if we encounter a fairy in the wild, there's a 2-to-1 chance that she's going to be good. That's good odds for any antagonist. The problem is the other half of those fairies that suck, and not in a good way. So what do we do when we encounter one of those? Well, my contact tells me that most fairies are allergic to iron, so you might want to carry around an iron tool just in case. Why are they allergic to iron? I don't know, but according to my contact, it's man-made and it makes them sick. So, carry a little bit on you, whether it's from a belt buckle or even pieces of your glasses. That'll do. Of course, if your aim is to attract a good fairy, you might want to take those things off, but I'll act on the side of caution. Another thing that the Unseelie are afraid of? Loud noises and church bells. I don't know where you're going to find a church bell that's easy enough to carry, but on your phone, if you have loud air horn noises or anything like that pulled up, just in moment's notice, that'll work fine. Another thing to keep in mind as far as keeping yourself alive, try not to walk around any suspicious mounds. It's said that there are fairy mounds out there. These act as portals between the fairy world and our world, so if you walk around them a certain number of times, I think the number is 9, then you'll instantly go to the fairy world where there is no way to get back. Of course, if you manage to find yourself in the fairy world and you happen to find a fairy wife and you live happily, good for you. However, that is a place where there is no Barnes & Noble or Dave's Hot Chicken, and that is not a world that I wish to live in, so I want to stay right here, and I am not walking around any suspicious mounds, and neither should you. On the opposite approach, say you're trying to attract a fairy. Fairies are really, I don't want to say turned on, fairies really like when you make clothes for them, and if you put out milk and honey, because it's sweet. The last thing you gotta keep in mind is to act accordingly. If Romulus is inviting you later at night for dinner, or is inviting herself to take care of your kid, do not trust it, because another thing that fairies can do is replace your baby with that of something called a changeling, which is an ugly little bastard that I guess is just a fairy in itself that sort of acts like the cuckoo bird. The fairy puts in the changeling and you raise it instead of an actual human, thinking that it might be your kid. I don't know. Don't let your guard down. Also, you could view this as good or bad news, but my contact says that if you are the firstborn in your family, you are a prime target for fairies, so take that as you will. She also says that if any of you get in trouble, she will not bail you out. Who is my contact? Well, Kendra Bratton? Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah.
Bratton.
Thank you for coming on. It is an absolute honor to have fairy royalty here on the Yude. Can't imagine that you must be very busy with your schedule, so I can't imagine that it must be easy to come down here to us mere mortal humans to talk with us, but hey, we are glad to have you here regardless. Thank you. How are you doing?
I am good! I finished my stream today.
Perfect. So now we have all the time we need to ask questions about fairies and all sorts of info that I'm trying to find here, because I'm still in my research period. But there's a lot of things that I'm just not clear on, because, as you know, there's just a lot of fairies out there, and just about any culture that existed and discovered how to farm just had their own version of a fairy. So there's just so much information that I'd just like to be clear. So it'd be great to have you here to clarify a few things, so that way I could ask a few things to make me narrow my research, so to speak.
Gotcha.
All right, but the first thing that I want to ask about you is your lore. You gave me some spark notes on the Leonon Sede. Nailed it. Yeah.
No.
Did I?
Leanne and she.
I rehearsed that for like 5 minutes before coming on here. You're telling me I didn't get it right?
No. Leon and she.
Okay, well, there's the first thing that I didn't understand. So if you could tell me a little bit more about yourself, where you hail from, the location of your origin, that would be great.
Well, originally, my family is from Ireland, originally, thanks to my great ancestors. So yeah, and I am also a Leanne and she. So yeah. And I'm 328 years old.
Your kingdom, I understand that you abjugated your throne. So,
Yes, I did.
Is that just you got tired of being a part of a monarchy and you just wanted to live your own life? Or what was going on there?
I ran away from home, mostly because I was bullied severely by my own kind, because I didn't want to drink the blood of humans that were supposed to, give us their love and devotion in exchange for the arts and stuff. No, I did not want to do that, so I left.
That's very
I wanted
admirable
to
of
leave.
you. I appreciate
Yeah.
I on behalf of humans, I appreciate that. But if
Well,
you're
I
not,
didn't.
yeah, isn't that your life force though? Like, isn't that something that you try to do to keep yourselves alive, or how do you sustain yourselves?
I go to a blood bank now. I get my blood from a blood bank.
That sounds illegal.
Or
Where do you get your
no,
blood?
it's fine. It's fine. Plus, I mean, the sweet fairies offer it to me from time to time.
Okay, I guess that's nice.
My community offers it to me. I mean, willingly. I ain't using my power to give them art and inspiration. Nah, they do that themselves. They can do that themselves. I don't do that. Nah.
I am curious about your powers. What is it that you, as a fairy, what powers do you hold?
I can help plants grow. I can talk to animals. I also can, give men artistic inspiration as well as help them garner fame and fortune. Yeah. And I also can make a mean pie.
What kind of pie?
Any kind. Lemon, chocolate, banana cream pie, whatever.
A weird question that I had in the back of my mind just like an hour beforehand was, Leonon Sede. Is that the name? Did I get it right?
She.
Leonon She. Have they ever tried to seduce, like, a celebrity that you know of? Like, does that ever happen? Or do you guys try to keep a low profile and not do something like that?
Let me call Johnny Depp. I'll ask him.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, because, like, they have people like that, they have hundreds of thousands of fans, right? It's hard to believe that if, like, not one fairy at least tried to, either improve their arts or, like, suck their blood or something. Or maybe it's just hidden from the media. I don't know, but it just feels like something that happens.
You'll never know. Maybe we did. Maybe we didn't. I'll never tell. I literally probably can't. My family will probably hunt me down.
What would you say is the ratio between fairies that are nice and, like, fairies that are not quite as nice?
Depends on the court. You have the Unseelie court, which is the race of the dark fairies that harm humans, and then you have the Seelie court, which is the good fae.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing else I found. Apparently, I don't know why this is, but a lot of fairy legends from the Americas, like the native traditions and, say, early American ones, fairies are used as good, like they're guides. They're actually okay. Whereas in the Far East, say Asia and, like, Eastern Russia, the polar opposite. They suck your blood. They try to like lure you into a lake and drown you. Whereas in the middle, like right in the middle, you have the European fairies: France, Germany, England, Scotland, like where you're from as well. That's like Ireland. They're like the middle ground. So you have a mix of fairies that are really good and really bad. So that's that's where you guys are, I guess.
Like, don't get me wrong, Banshee's scary as fuck, but they're actually supposed to be the spirits of women who were hired to wail at someone's funeral.
What?
So, yeah, they are called keening women. They were supposed to cry and wail for the rich families. So, I'm just like, not gonna lie, I think one of them was my cousin. I think one of them was my cousin.
I mean, an interesting line of business, but you do what you gotta do, I guess. Like, I won't shame. That's just.
I mean, they were supposed to signal death.
Yeah. No, what banshees are supposed to signal death? Because I don't know a lot about them. I just now figured out that they are one of the fairy kind. Because a lot of fairies actually fall under that umbrella. Because fairies, the term fairies was just used as a blanket term, I find, to describe a whole lot of stuff that just wasn't human. Not just like the small pixies like Tinkerbell, but anything from leprechauns, I think, were technically fairies. Goblins.
They are fairy.
That does not make sense. They are fairy, I guess.
Anything ancient, anything that's not considered human are fae folk. So yes.
Yeah. Ooh, fae folk. How much do you know about them? Because I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, do you know anything about the fae folk? Are they just the original Irelanders, or?
They are basically the Airshi, the children of the mound.
Oh, that's actually another thing that I recently figured out. So apparently, as far as fairy origins go, let me see if I've written this down at all. It's connections with the fairy world. That's what it is. Because apparently there are mounds, or there are natural locations that are said to be portals to the fairy world between, like, the human world and the fairy world. Do you know of any of those offhand? Like, do you know they exist? Of course, you don't have to tell me where they are, because I don't want to do any discovery myself, but...
Maybe in the upper highlands of Ireland and Scotland. But I can't tell you, because then otherwise we would probably have to teleport you. Are you the firstborn?
Yes. What does that mean?
Sorry, you may have to be transported. That is another thing. Fairies take the firstborn child.
Did I say firstborn? I meant worst. I meant to say worstborn. Yeah, that's what I am. I am not of great class. I'm like the worst runt of the litter. So you don't want me. I don't taste very good. My blood sucks. And yeah, don't go for me.
Why do people assume we would eat you? For all you know, you could be living a life of luxury with a hot wife.
That would be ideal, but I have done so much research on monster girls over the past year that 9 times out of 10, I know that if I interact with someone, I am being eaten. So I am not going to flip that coin. That is a game of Russian roulette that I am not playing.
You want to play Russian roulette?
With the land on Shade? What Shade? Is that what it is? No, absolutely not. I will not.
Just say fairy lover. Just say fairy lover.
With fairy lovers? Probably not.
Yeah.
That is not.
Yeah,
something...
that is literally what Leanne and she means. It's fairy lover in Irish Gaelic.
Yeah. So in addition to being very hard to pronounce, life with fairies, I don't know. Maybe I'd be willing to give it a shot if I have an exit button, like if I'm able to leave. Because the other thing about these fairy mounds that I found is that once you enter, a lot of the time you are not allowed to come back out. Like, you are stuck in the fairy world. You can't leave.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay, yeah, good.
Yes.
So probably shouldn't search that thing. And anybody watching, you shouldn't go after these things either. Although if you want to, according to legend, if you walk around one of these mounds like 9 times, then you get transported to the fairy world. If you want to, but I do not recommend it.
Yeah.
There.
Yes.
What was that?
Yeah, don't do it. Unless you want to, like, get your blood sucked.
You say that. That's definitely a turn on for, like, most people. It's just...
Ask my chat. Some of them like it.
So you have sucked their blood. Blood bank my ass. I knew it. Since becoming a part of the human world, is there anything that's been... what's the best thing that you've encountered in the human world? Like something where you just think, there's no way I could have gotten this back home where I'm from. No, this is pretty cool.
Video games. Video games.
Yeah, part of the stuff that you stream, right? Is there anything else that you do on stream, or is it mostly just games? Because I also know you sing for a bit.
Diamond art. I like doing the diamond art. I like drawing. I like pulling TCG. I love doing Pokemon, Magic the Gathering TCG, and the VTuber cards, like V Royale made by Lucius Merriweather, as as... Yeah, and I do want to get into V-Card, which is the one that's endorsed by Shy Lily.
What else was there? Is there... Oh, right. Music. I wanted to ask about that. Was our music kind of outlandish and foreign to begin with, or did you just kind of click to it real well? Because I'm not sure what music was like back in your homeland. I imagine... forgive me for being racist, but harpsichords and vocals.
We didn't have that. We had banjos and violins. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. I mean, just so you guys know, you can thank the Irish for all your music of today, because rock and roll, metal, pop, hip-hop, all of that, like, they all have the origins in Ireland and make them mixed in with, like, other cultures.
Rock and roll came from Ireland.
Originally, yes. Faye Papa, my dad, Faye Papa, is a big music lover. And yes, he watches your human documentaries, and yes, all music had rock and roll, metal, those sounds all came from Ireland originally. Yes.
Well, that's pretty cool. Like my interpretation of rock, I guess, goes as far back as the 50s with Beatlemania, so I didn't think that it came from Ireland, but now that I say it out loud, it kind of makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, Ireland is like a lot of stuff, and like people like just think that we're just potato lovers.
We've talked a lot about good stuff about humans. Is there anything that's bugged you about humans? Like anything where you're like, you humans are pretty cool, but there's one aspect where you guys absolutely suck. Is there anything like that?
You guys always ask, can I fly? Do you not see these things on my back?
Well, yeah, well, okay. All right, here's, in their defense, ostriches have wings, they can't fly. Penguins have flaps, they can't fly. So maybe
they use those to swim. Ostriches actually do fly.
They do not. They run.
They
that's
do.
why they're too heavy for that. I have never seen an ostrich fly.
They use them to glide.
Gliding is not flying. That's falling with style. I've seen Toy Story. I know what that is.
Destroy Toy Story. I will melt Buzz Lightyear with a freaking magnifying glass.
Yeah, go ahead. It's not going to convince me otherwise. Ostriches don't fly. You know what else doesn't fly? God, what's another bird that snakes. They don't have wings, but you're right, they absolutely don't fly.
But they climb trees and they do jump.
That doesn't mean that they fly. But no, that's
Squirrels.
They have sugar gliders. They have like their weird squirrel suits, so I kind of give them a pass. No, actually no, they don't fly. You're right. They glide. That's what it is. So, in defense of whoever was asking you, I forgot what the original thing was, but in defense of whoever was asking you, it is completely possible for you to have wings and not fly.
I fly! The only time I can't is when they're wet.
Anything else? Like, for one, like in my case, one thing I really don't like about humans, modern art. I don't like it. I hate it.
Yeah, I don't like
so
modern art. Literally, there are some people that just take bikes and weld them together and then paint it and they call it art. I'm like, that's not art!
Oh,
that's just you welding bikes together!
I can be okay with that, because at least there's some effort to it. The ones that I really hate are like stamping a rectangle on a blank canvas and saying that that's millions of dollars. What really grinded my gears was, I don't know if you recall, but a few years ago, or maybe recently, somebody had that banana duct taped to a canvas that was millions of dollars, and some dude just like grabbed the banana and took a bite out of it. Now that is art.
No, that's just a statement piece saying this isn't art, this is food.
Yes, and that is art. I will stand fully behind that. Like there's some modern art that I think is okay. So in 1911, when it first took off, you had Duchamp's urinal, right? Because I think his thing was he wanted to show anything could be art, so he literally just grabbed a urinal, put his name on it. For some reason, that clicks with me. But circle on a canvas, that doesn't. That just feels it's lazy.
I prefer
There's not a lot of
Banksy.
effort to it.
I prefer Banksy, the vandalist artist that literally will go around and go to controversial landscapes, like the big wall that separates Palestine and Israel.
Yeah.
He painted on it.
Wait, you can. Wait,
He did.
you're not allowed to do that, right? Or am I-
He didn't get caught. Nobody knows who Banksy is. That's the thing. Like somehow, some way, they just come and they vandalize certain places with political statements. It was a little girl with the balloons trying to get over the wall.
Wait, you're kidding? This guy like he's a repeat offender? Like he keeps going with this?
Yeah, and he's never gotten caught.
No way. All right, hold on. Where's a pen? I gotta write that one down. That actually kind of interests me. Give me a second.
And then, yeah.
Find my headphones.
And then there was one time they tried to sell his artwork at a gallery, but he came up with a way. As soon as it sold, it was destroyed because he put a paper shredder in the canvas, and as soon as it got sold, it went.
Oh my god! I think I read about that. I think I saw that.
That's the one. That's Banksy.
Oh, but that is so smart.
That is my favorite artist.
Is there anything about humanity that you just don't understand, or like something we do that you just don't get, that you just think we're weird for? Maybe I could try to explain it to a degree.
Possibly the whole like
war, furry conventions, that kind of thing.
why do you guys like, I don't know, go to college?
Why do we go to college? Good question. I want to say that a lot of it is because we grew up on the whole idea of college life being the thing that we have to attain. Like, a lot of people are probably just believe that it's something that's going to get them into a particular field or a job, which, you know, to some degree it does. But a lot of human media and entertainment is about eventually getting up to that point where you have to take this pilgrimage to go to a college. So I think that's what it is, despite the cost. And also, you just have generations of humans that have just done the same thing for years. So that's probably why they just haven't broken through that loop.
I was born in 1600s. They didn't even have colleges. Some people didn't even go.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, back in the 1600s, you didn't have people that went to college because it's just... You had work to do at home, and you could have, like, easily sustained yourself on that. Meanwhile, like, I guess in today, college is just the thing that's been sold as that thing that will get you to a higher standard of living. But yeah, that's what I think.
I went to your all's colleges. I call it Fairy College, but I'm just like, no, it's a cover. It's a cover. I went to your all's human colleges.
Oh yeah, how'd you like one of those?
I liked the classes and stuff, but I've learned something. The papers, those diplomas you all get, it's just telling me I've learned this. It doesn't get me a job.
It does not. It's all a part of the joke. 100%.
And this means nothing. I throw my diploma on the ground.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having one. Like, at the very least, what I love about college and why I think that people should still go, it teaches you how to be a person. Like me, for example.
True.
I coming out of high school, I was a really obnoxious piece of shit. Like, I was, imagine Chunibyo from Love Chunibyo, Other Delusions, but taken to the cringiest, I want to say edgiest level. But it wasn't until
I was gonna think of Bakugo back there.
No, not even Bakugo. Like, Bakugo is cool. I was more along the lines of, God. I don't know what character I can compare him to, but imagine like a really annoying, edgy piece of shit. I was that. But after going to Bakugo's cool. Bakugo, you did not just insult Bakugo.
I did. I prefer Dobby.
You're kidding. He's funny. He is funny. He makes fun of Deku in a funny way. I love how he shouts, and he's got an attractive mom.
Okay, his mom is hot. Not gonna lie, but he could still do without being a dick to poor Deku.
Yeah, but he bites it. Like he eventually, I don't want to say he changes, but like he
dies.
Wait, he does? Wait, what?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. No.
How do I know you're not trying to cover your tracks? Oh my god. Hold on, I gotta. Oh my god. No. No. Not my bitch boy. Not my guy. Please. What was I talking about? Fuck, college? Yeah, learning how to be a person. So it wasn't until after I went to college and I actually found some really good friends that they called me out on my bullshit. And we actually ended up connecting over anime. And so we all just had our watch nights. And from there, I became a better person. And I figured out how this whole human thing works. So if I recommend college for anything, I think that it's cool for that. High school is not a place for it because it's just, in the same school, you got people trying to eat Tide Pods, right? Like, it's not a role model place, but college is a better place to learn that sort of thing.
I have seen the movies, and your all's high schools. They suck.
Yeah, no, go ahead. If you have something to say about high schools and you don't like it, I can cut it out later. So go ahead, go unhinged.
Nah,
I won't stop you.
They disappoint me. That's all I'm gonna say. They disappoint me.
So another thing that I'm gonna need your help on is hypotheticals, because at this point in my video, what I usually do is I make up hypotheticals of what would happen if, in this case, fairies were they spawned in as a new species in our world, or at least they came out of hiding, we'll say, because, you know, for devil's advocate, they've always been around us. You have always been here, at the very least. So they've come out of hiding. The world says, hey, you don't have to, you exist now. So my question is to you, where do you think they'd all be moving to? If fairies just suddenly started existing, where would be like the #1 destination for every fairy, or for all fairies?
I would say the forests of like different places. Like in Germany, for example, they would go to Schwarzwald, which is the Black Forest in Germany. For probably some of the other ones, either Yosemite or maybe where, you know, those people that ate each other on the Oregon Trail. I mean, some of them gotta live in the forest. Otherwise, some of the Leanne and she are probably gonna go hunting for young widowers at, like, I don't know, like a bar or something.
Oh yeah, they'll just like I'll probably find a whole bunch of those working at Soapland in Japan, or like the red light district in the Netherlands for sure.
Possibly.
Where else? Like I was curious about fairies moving into the woods, because like there's more than just, you know, just the woods out there. There's hawks and stuff. So like the littler fairies for sure, they'd have it the worst. Then again, they've been living for thousands of years, so I guess they figured out how to avoid that sort of thing. I don't know.
Well, technically, like the hawks would probably be their mounts.
Right. Oh, I forgot. They could probably domesticate them and use them as
bombard you all with like hawks.
Do you think that governments would try to sanction that at all? Because there's no way that, like, say the American government, right? You just had fairies living in Yosemite or in Yellowstone. There's no way that they'd be okay with fairies using the local flora and fauna just for their national park. And especially they'd want to use it for military purposes, I imagine.
What if the fairies were part of the government?
Alright, look, you broke my mind with birds once. Birds are fake, they're all instruments of the government, but not fairies. You cannot have them. I will not allow it.
You never know. Maybe fairies are part of the government. I say.
This entire time. What would the
Illuminati
government... Okay, if that were true, what would the government use fairies for? What do you think would be, like, espionage?
Gold. Gold sourcing, espionage, yes. Diplomatic ties.
Okay, you're gonna have to go further on that one. Diplomatic ties? For what
Yeah,
purpose?
because other countries have fairies too. They could also be part of those governments.
I mean, that...
Like, you know, in China, there's called Wat Bao. Wat Bo.
Okay, but that doesn't necessarily translate to, like, Xi Jinping finally falling in line, because look, man, Winnie the Pooh is not going to fall for the U.S. government just because the fairies were the ones that were able to broker peace. At least I don't imagine that being
Damn.
the case. Yeah, so what? If China wants to hunt me down, so be it. But I just don't see that one happening.
All right.
In some cases, I can imagine
a fairy spy.
Yeah, no, like spies definitely. Gold for sure.
Okay, what
else?
about like getting weaponry, like magical weaponry?
Magical weaponry. What weapons would a fairy have that say a nuclear bomb can't do?
Magical missiles.
What would they do? What does a magical missile entail?
Possibly like turning everyone in the land into geese. Or transporting them to another world.
Ooh, the isekai bomb. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I can see that. In my mind, what I went to is because another thing about fairies that I'm not sure of, and you can answer this for me. Do fairies, are they allergic to metal and iron and steel?
Depends on the storytelling. Some are, some aren't, because I know that some people are like, but wait, blood has iron. I'm like, I'm one of the fairies that is immune to iron.
Yeah, and yeah, because what I was thinking there was that like if you wanted to create a bomb or a missile or something, you need metal. But if you could somehow create a missile of wood and sticks, nature, who knows what else? I guess it's off radar. I don't know.
Well, mostly iron. It's just iron, and some of the stuff is that they use is steel.
Yeah. Why is that, by the way? Why is it that fairies don't like iron? Is it just like man-made, or is it something else?
Man-made.
Yeah. In that regard, I guess there won't be a lot of fairies moving into cities. Because I was thinking maybe some would. I can sort of see them living in high rises.
Concrete, mostly. A lot of the stuff in the city is made of concrete and mostly steel rebar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, another thing that people were asking in the comment section. A question that I unfortunately can't ask later because you are of human size. The Shide. Is that what it is? The Shide? Did I get it?
Just say fairy lover.
The fairy lover.
Zero.
What you are. You are of human size. You're not pint-sized. You are of a regular size.
I am normal size.
Yeah, so a lot of people were asking about the housing market for some reason, about fairies living in a smaller space, so I guess it's cheaper living for them. Not to mention food, because one loaf of bread could probably last you just weeks on end, provided it doesn't mold and you know what you're doing.
Well, pixies, yes. Like the little one in my arms here, yes. Me, no, it would only last me like a day. Because I eat it all. Smaller fairies, the housing market would be easier for them. For us, some of them would take to the woods and use trees, like hollow out some of the trees so they don't hurt the tree. Others, we would probably just buy houses. It depends on what some of us feel.
Yeah, I always imagined maybe suburbia would be the best spot, because it's just imagine walking into your local suburban coffee shop and you just see a fairy working there. Just they have that kind of aesthetic. Not too not too close to the city, but not too far away from the woods.
Or they would build around a tree just to make it like a little nice, you know.
Yeah.
Like you would see in like Final Fantasy 14. There's gonna be fairies that adapt, like I said. Some fairies will work at like hostess bars or bars as, you know, bartenders. Some of them will probably sell clothing. Some will probably work in, like, I don't know, like steel work and everything like that.
Still work.
Some of them, like goblins, for example, they will probably work in the banks. Welcome to Gringotts. Others would probably just be like, you know, actresses and everything else. You don't know. Look at Kate Blanchett. You cannot tell me she is not a fairy. That woman doesn't even look a day over her age. She has some kind of like. She's like probably got like a miracle cream.
then maybe she's not a fairy. Maybe she's just using like fairy goods.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe she's getting it from a nice, high-quality fairy. Wink, wink. That, you know, sells nice products on the side. I don't know. It could be anything.
Do you know of any celebrities that are like fairies living among us?
For that, I would have to ask my lawyer.
Or how long do you think it would be until the first live-action Tinkerbell movie?
Fuck that shit. We don't need it.
Oh, getting a little bit of spite here. Are you not a big Tinkerbell fan?
I don't like live-action remakes.
Oh, okay. That's what it is.
Like, bro, that it is shown many times the formula that live-action remakes will never hold a candle to the animations.
Yes, in most regards. However, I think that there is maybe once in a blue moon one that fits, and
It depends on who's the director.
It does depend on who's the director, but I also think that the way that the story is told, if it's different from the original, that one could work. So my champion is The Jungle Book. Back when they came out with a live action in 2015, that one I think
was good.
Yeah,
that one was good
because that one was more loyal to the source material, if I remember.
It was loyal to the source material, and they didn't steer away from like the music. It stayed to the original from the book, from the original movies.
Yeah.
But I will say that though, the Little Mermaid live action.
Didn't even see it. I have no stomach for it. Nor for like the other Disney princess movies that were made that were just amazing at first, but trying to bastardize now. Like Mulan, I heard was terrible.
It was bad. No, it was bad. Little Mermaid was bad. Snow White was bad. Yeah, just don't watch it, and don't watch Lilo and Stitch, because apparently Ohana does not mean family anymore. It means foster care.
Wait, for real? Or are you?
Look at Twitter. They all said the same thing. It doesn't even mean family anymore to Disney. It means.
What do you mean anymore?
Lonnie gave Lilo up.
Wait, what?
She gives her up. And then Lottie goes to America for college in marine biology. And then Lilo lives with her grandma.
Okay, live action sucks. You know what? Another thing that humans drop the ball with? Live action remakes, for sure. Add that to the list. Modern art, live action remakes, and people telling you that you can't fly even though you have wings. We really are the worst, aren't we? I am just the worst spokesperson.
No, you're not. You're pretty good. You're a good person. I'm just educating you.
Before we close out here, I have a couple of questions from my subs and fairy enthusiasts alike. Would like to ask you some questions if you wouldn't mind. Just some questions from the mortals. First up, we have a question from Dotsmo, who asks, "What's the biggest pro of being a fairy, and what is the biggest con, in your opinion?"
The biggest pro is living for a very long time and being able to play all the fun video games that you humans have created. The biggest con, having to get carded a lot. A lot. I still get carded! Even though I'm 328, I'm just like, here. And they're like, "Are you sure you're this age, ma'am?" And I'm like, "Yes." Oh my
god, can you imagine being a bartender in a world of fairies? Like, they have to bring out the big book and they're just like, "Alright, what breed are you?" Fairy, God, which one? God, Goblin, fuck, Fae people, the Leonon Shade, the Lover Fairy, whatever. I guess you're good. Fine, drink, kid. It's gotta be terrible.
I know. That's
Holy
the biggest con.
Next question. We got one from Alex Hughes, who asks, is using dwarf in conversation with a fairy considered a social faux pas, or am I being oversensitive? I don't know what context he'd use dwarf when talking to a fairy, but I imagine that'd be okay.
Depends if you're actually talking to a dwarf or if you're talking to a goblin.
Yeah.
If you're talking to a goblin, then they probably would smack you. If it's a dwarf, they would just talk to you and share a nice pint of mead.
Oh, okay. Here's a better way to embellish that question. Is there a taboo topic for fairies, something you should not mention under any circumstances when you're in the presence of a fairy? Like a fairy N-word, if you will.
Calling a fairy a knife ear.
A knife.
A knife ear.
A knife ear.
You want to get beheaded?
I never would have thought that. I thought that describing small stature would be something.
Well, also that too, depending on which fairy. If it's a Leananshi and you call us a pipsqueak, get ready to fight some of the taller Leananshi.
Well, guess what? Pipsqueak is easier to say than Leanna and she, so I think I might just stick with that one.
Hey, you said it right this time.
I did?
Yes. He's happy.
Fuck you. Fun. I knew it. Character development.
Character development.
Dear Lord. That'll be like the one and only time I actually get it right. Just watch. Also from Alex, he asks, is regularly flying long distances feasible, or is it easier to drive?
Flying.
Fly? Really? You don't get tired if you fly like from here to the grocery store or anything like that?
No.
And so I guess,
What, you expect me to use my legs?
well, I don't know. Maybe you get tired when you use your wings. Like, humans don't run everywhere because we have stamina issues and endurance problems. So
True,
yeah,
I sometimes do use a car. Because I'm just like, you humans made such fun cars. I'm surprised you all don't, like, I don't know, drive them like those monster trucks and stuff I've seen on your all's TVs.
Yeah, we try, or like we'd want to, but like driving one of those just costs way too much, if you understand. Because I don't know if fairies have a whole currency thing going on, but with humans, the larger the car, the more you have to pay for it. Especially roads, like they're not built for monster trucks, to say the least. Plus, it's just kind of seen as obnoxious, like if you drive one of those things to the store, for sure.
True.
Green Lemonade asks, do you eat burger?
Yes.
Really? So fairies aren't vegetarian, I guess. Like, you're able to eat meat as well.
So long as they died a humane way, yeah, like natural causes and stuff, yes.
Next up, we have one from Jackson Serba, who asks, do you emit light? And if so, how bright would you be? So is that another one of your
wings
powers?
do. Yeah, my wings do. And it can be pretty bright if I want it to be, but for right now, no, I don't want it. I don't want it blinding y'all.
I greatly
don't want you guys
appreciate
seeing
that.
the eye of God.
Next up, we have one from Yensi Ninja, or Yensi the Ninja, who asks, is Australia off limits to fairies?
No.
Really? So you guys aren't afraid of like the otherworldly creatures that seem to live just in Australia?
My friends are from Australia. My friend Mary, Margaret Ferres, she's a necromancer. My friend Mau Slime, she's a slime VTuber. And then my friend Cut the Kitsune.
They hail from Australia.
They're Australian. Cup is Aussie.
Well, dang.
Everyone thinks she's British, but she's not. I'm like, she's from Australia.
Forgive people. Sometimes accents don't come to the ear. Plus, I mean, Australian used to be British as well, so it's understandable.
Yeah, she drinks tea. That's why they call her British. I'm like, you're never gonna beat the British allegations now. I told her, you're never gonna beat the British allegations, girl.
Next up, we got one from I Bathe and Cringe, who asks, how dangerous would it be if she got drunk? Now, I imagine she means you in this case, so are you a dangerous drunk as a fairy?
I don't drink.
Really?
I don't. There's a history of alcohol abuse in my family, so I choose not to drink. If I do, it's just one glass.
Nice. Do you want me to cut that out at all? Because that might be a little personal.
It's fine.
Sweet.
No, it's fine.
Right, well, that just about settles that. That's all the questions that I have here. Again, thank you for coming on. This has been great. Before we go, is there anything that you'd like to plug, socials or artists for your model, anything like that?
My model mama in rigor is Meat Say, and the one who makes all my outfits for my model is Kumiho Vixen. And you can find me on Twitter at Voxes_Faygirl. And you can find me on Twitch known as Kendra Bratton. And then my YouTube is Kendra Bratton, Fairy VTuber. And I play variety games.
Another thing now before we go, I also want to ask, since my video is by title, You Wouldn't Want to Date a Fairy, I imagine that there is a lot of blasphemy coming from me, and by extension, a lot of hate may be coming towards me from the fairy community, so I'd just like to ask, how much trouble am I in?
Not very, none.
So no one will come after me, I won't get hexed or anything of that nature?
No.
And if I do get hexed and something goes wrong, will you help me?
I'll call Geralt of Rivia.
No idea who that is, but I appreciate it. I am so getting hexed, aren't I?
You're so
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, I'd say that went pretty well. Kendra's pretty cool, and she's also a reformed Unseelie, so I'd say that that's good in my book. She also has a pretty good community, she's pretty active with them, and she doesn't miss anybody who talks to her, so give her a watch. I'll put her channel in the description below. So me personally, after all that, would I date the fairy? It depends on whether or not I have an exit button. When it comes to fairies, there is a good chance that I will be sent to the fairy world where I can never return to this one. As I mentioned before, I have many attachments here that I would not like to leave, even if that were for the cost of a hot fairy wife. I remember all the negatives. I remember how the Unseelie will turn me inside and out. I remember how they will suck my blood, rob me dry, mess with me to the nth degree. And if we're talking about the rules of engagement, I can't brag about her, I can't watch her bathe. She'll probably banish me to a world at which I am unfamiliar. But after all that, can you imagine how cute that would be? Like how delicate she is, those wings, those looks, it just looks like something out of a fairy tale. Maybe it's akin to what I said earlier. As men, we want something that we can't have. And in this case, a fairy, though dangerous though she is, there are just so many things that are magical about it, and I want now. How can you pass that up? I know that there will be inconveniences, but there's plenty of pros to it too. Let's say we're playing on hard mode, right? Let's say that she's small, delicate, and I have to deal with the rules of engagement. I can't brag about her, but off the top of my head, cooking for her would be a cinch. Like, it wouldn't be that hard to prepare meals for her. Accommodating the house, making it iron-proof, would be a bit of a pain, but we can figure that one out as we go along. I also love the idea of coming home from a hard day at work and she flies by and gives me a kiss on the cheek and then flies away. That's just... that's so cute. That's so cute. And I want to try it. I want to see what it's like. But I also understand it comes with extra responsibility, because if we're on hard mode, again, I don't think I can take her on a date with places with strong winds. We'd also have to be very careful with how she is seen. I don't know if bragging about her or talking about her or being seen in public with her are the same thing, but if that's the case, we'd have to keep her hidden and then do things like the Ferris wheel, where it's just the two of us. It's also kind of sad not being able to sleep in the same bed, because I toss and turn a lot, and I imagine that I'd crush her. So that's a precaution that we'd have to take. But at the end of the day, a fairy is meant to be, I don't know if life coach is the right word, but if she can grant wishes, and the way she does that is by being your own personal cheerleader, I'd appreciate that. That's ideal. That is the ideal life. And then there's procreation, because I don't know how that's gonna work. I've read the Monster Girl Encyclopedia version of it, where their bodies are... elastic isn't the right word for it, but they are capable of taking it. But what if she's not?
That did not sound natural. Oh my god! Oh my god, I'm sorry, that was terrible.
I'm sure we'd also have to be careful with her wings, because if she's got delicate wings, I can't use them as handlebars. That's probably not right. Yes, I would date a fairy. The thrill's just too good to stay away from. And we could just set some certain boundaries for ourselves. Like, say we're a Leanne and she, right? They feed off of my life, and they give me artistic inspiration, which is inevitably what kills me. The way I see it, if she doesn't do that, then I'm fine. There's a way to make it work. It just requires research and some heavy lifting. Got it. I'll wish for her to not be a danger to my health. That should work. So yeah, I guess my answer is that I would at least give it a try, for whatever brief a time, before it ends up killing one of us. But that's what it's all about, and that is all that I have on fairies. Thank you for sticking around this long and indulging me in this research project for fairies. And also a thank you to Kendra for helping me out with the project with some of her fairy research, and for being a part of the interview. She was very quick with it, to the point where I felt guilty because I took a lot longer in the editing process and the recording process than I thought, and she was ready to go just then and there. So as far as everything goes, like, it all turned out great. She was fun to be around, and I definitely think that you guys should give her a watch. She's cool. Another funny tidbit is that during my research period, I was telling Megami the Minotaur what I was doing, and she turns out she's a huge fairy nut with like 5 whole books on fairies. To me, that just sounds like addiction, but it ended up being really helpful. I know I've done this for a while, but what I'm beginning to see is that throughout the span of a recording session, which could take me anywhere from 2.5 to 3 hours, I end up talking myself into dating the girl in question, even though I start off very warlike, very aggressive towards not wanting to date this girl. I eventually just kind of filibuster myself, or I talk myself into it just out of sheer exposure. So that's just a funny thing that I'm noticing with these. Yeah, I guess that's just the way it works, you know? The fairy flutters those wings and then bats those eyes and then beckons me forward, gives me some artistic inspiration and drinks my blood, and then that's lights out for me. I never stood a chance. One thing that I do want to bring to light is that I know that I didn't cover specific fairies, like banshees. The way that I see it, I want to give them all their own video, much like I did for Leprechaun and Doulahan, even though they are technically fairies. It's just, you know, it gives me more options out there, because if I put everything together into one, it would A, be way too long a video, and B, it broadens the research to the point where it's just not as fun. Like, if I'm going from book to book, learning about these specific beings, and then trying to remember to put it all into a single video, it's just a little too stressful, so I'd rather not do something like that. If I did miss anything about fairies that you guys could mention in the comments, by all means, I won't stop you. I read all those comments, I read them all, and they are funny. There are comments that give me some overwhelming support, and then others that say stuff like, oh, yep, there's antagonist, she's making a living out of being wrong again, which just tickles me something fancy. So I appreciate those. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate Kendra for being on the interview and letting me live. I appreciate Megami for giving me some research material, just all of it. But anyway, that's all I got for you. Sayonara, suckers.
You are not living here.